Let's talk about baby dicks.
What did he say?
Because whether you like it or not, America has a lot of thoughts on what to do with them. As of 2010, 58% of baby dicks are sliced in the US. But why? Why are we chopping skin off of baby penises? When did this practice even start? What are the pros and cons of this ancient practice? And by the way, who is the sick freak who decided to make this a thing? Most importantly, is it an ethical thing for parents to just chop off part of their baby's dick? I mean, if I was a baby and they were chopping part of my dick off, I would want to have a word in. Like, damn, dude, I just came out of the womb. Like, give me a second to, like, get consciousness at least. As always, after some research, I found some disturbing things about this all too common practice. So I thought I would share it with you so we can both be traumatized. You ever look down at your schlong and think to yourself, hey, there's something missing here? Well, you're not alone, because circumcision has a long history. According to some scholars, it's the oldest known surgical procedure. Although you may be most familiar with the Brit Milah, or Jewish ritual circumcision, many cultures have engaged in the practice throughout the ages. Among these are the pre-modern Inca, Mayan, and Aztec people of Mesoamerica, the ancient Egyptians, the Aboriginal people in Australia, and South Sea Islands. Today, the ritual of circumcision is practiced for religious reasons by Jews, Muslims, and certain Orthodox Christians. The ritual can have many different meanings. For example, Islam requires men to undergo circumcision as a rite of passage into adulthood. This ritual, which serves to affirm one's purity before God, is also known as tahara. It's also a hygiene practice according to them. However, the non-religious circumcision is only really practiced in the States. But why? The Victorian era, a time period where the British Empire grew to become the first industrial power on a global scale. They did this by making most of the world's coal, iron, steel, and textiles. And this was during the time where the arts and sciences were making huge leaps forward.
Remember, correct posture at the machine.
What is she stitching?
However, the Victorian upper class had other obsessions like cleanliness, sexuality, and moral virtue. So, in the beginning of the 19th century, circumcision in America was not normal or even widespread. Quite the opposite, actually, as it was regarded as a bizarre mutilation practiced by primitive people. However, this sentiment didn't really last too long. Instead, it would be overshadowed by a quintessentially Victorian moral panic, that of masturbation, or how they like to call it, self-abuse. This was a major scapegoat upon which thinkers of the time hung of the ills of society. That's a fancy way of saying
masturbatory insanity,
meaning sexual self-stimulation was regarded as not only immoral and spiritually degrading, but also dangerous to an individual's physical health and hygiene. Something had to be done in the face of this insidious menace to societal well-being. Unfortunately, most of the methods cooked up by the Victorian physicians to prevent and treat masturbatory insanity, he's like me for real, involved genital mutilation.
Correct terminology is masturbation. This pie chart shows the percentage of boys masturbating in the world. Swish all the Vaseline around so it covers your penis.
That's messy.
Male and female circumcision, that is, along with even more aggressive procedures like cauterization, castration, and even clitoridectomy, which was far less common because they couldn't find the clitoris. All these were pushed as means for the restoration of public virtue. So, Victorian fears of uncleanliness and filth bolstered by growing scientific and public acceptance of the germ theory of disease played into all of this well. The presence of foreskin was thought to lead to poor hygiene and increased risk of disease, which caused circumcision to be promoted as a solution to this perceived problem, along with a host of other things such as bedwetting, epilepsy, asthma, and indigestion. In short, it became a cure-all. But what has modern science found about the risks and benefits of circumcision? Research tells us that circumcision can provide a few benefits. It's associated with lower rates of urinary tract infections, some rare penile cancers, and lower transmission rates of HPV and HIV. Even the World Health Organization recommends routine circumcision as a public health measure among certain populations in areas where HIV is highly endemic. So despite the belief that was pretty much held during the Victorian era that circumcision decreases pleasure and function, which a lot of studies have actually shown that it doesn't. That's pretty much a lie that was widespread today as much as it was in the Victorian era. And like any surgery, of course, it has some sort of risk, but I mean, it's very small. The risk I'm talking about. I think 1 in 500 procedures go wrong, Which again, I would not want to take that risk, especially if I only have one penis. I don't want any sort of complications. I already have enough trouble as it is. However, that's pretty much the only instance that medical experts recommend circumcision. And it's still a less effective preventative measure than proper condom use, which, by the way, if you want to learn more about the history of condoms, I made a video right here. So, in conclusion, since the decline of the Victorian moral panic that, was surrounding masturbation, circumcision doesn't really have a place in modern times, in my opinion. But circumcision has pretty much been declining since the 80s, so I don't think we'll see too much of that anymore. However, it is still, of course, an option for parents to circumcise their kid. So, in the absence of meaningful medical research kind of backing up why circumcision still needs to exist today, would you chop off your baby's foreskin off? I'm curious to know what you guys think, and I'm sorry for anyone that has gone through that. My condolences. I know you really needed those centimeters. See you next time. Love you like a headache.